Hello, this is Shinay Tredeau, and I'm here with Bhavani Maki for another conversation. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to tune in to the Yogi's Roadmap podcast. We deeply appreciate you. Bhavani, what a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you, Shinay. I know that there's a lot of moving pieces and parts and times to allocate this time together. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I hope someday we can meet in person and do one of these in person. That would be
Oh
pretty
my
great.
God, what
I
a
know.
concept.
I know. Well, let's dive right in. We've been talking a lot about the shift in your teaching style, and moving more towards a feeling-based exploratory experience. These are my words, so you can add your emphasis, which leans into the sensory awareness. And I want to highlight that this shift feels like the antidote for me for our current troubled times. It's not an answer, but it's an invitation to show up in a way that is yet unfamiliar to me, and also not allowing me to just go about my business as usual. So I thank you for that. And I want to go a little further and ask you, what do you want to say to those of us who might have a hard time slowing down?
Yeah, join the club, you know. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? Um, and then when you just kind of finally get out of your own way, you're like, oh my gosh, you know? So I think that our culture really values this cortisol infused kind of momentum and productivity slash hyperactivity. So, it's really about coming to a place of reestablishing your values, right?
Mm.
And what slowing down for one person might look totally different for another. And we don't have to wait necessarily for a crisis for that to happen. I mean, that crisis is it's like a interception from our psyche saying, hey, my body is telling me something different, or my relationships are telling something different. When things start eroding, then it's often like there's so much cleanup that has to be done. But it's also so freeing, when you just take a little time, and it's like you're always dealing with that tension, right? Am I slowing down enough? Okay, did I slow down yet? Like, can I get over it? Can I move quicker? So being able to hold things, slowing down maybe also is our perspective of time.
Mm.
So we can see things with a broader scope, with a bigger view. And I've never regretted slowing down. In hindsight, it's kind of like I never regretted taking time out to do a practice. But it also, very much like, as according to the sister science of Ayurveda, it's like it changes our own aging process. And I know for me, it's become really starkly clear that my son is making this shift. He's really on this threshold, and it's like 2/3 of his childhood is over. And so those little moments that are squandered are really precious. So it's like kind of a way that we can have foresight that, like, oh gosh, why did I let that moment slip by? So I am really feeling it in relationship to this preciousness of my tenure as a parent. Yeah, I mean, I think that life just really gets sweeter in that way when we take those moments. I mean, we just went through sutras on this in the Vibhuti Pada. It's like really milking. I know that has a whole other context for the nursing mothers being milked, but you get to milk the moment also. And in doing that, there's a feeling, there's like kind of a lessening, because we don't ever see it all. We're not like we're always have this longing. We know that's a natural thing. So this sense of like, oh, I missed out on that, or why wasn't I more present or more appreciative? It kind of creates a new balance within ourselves. And slowing down can be as simple as, it can be a quick process. If that's any consolation, you can slow down quickly.
Yeah.
Way to sell it, Bhavani, right? Like it could take as little as 10 seconds. And I think I've shared that thing that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did we
Yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah.
And just taking a moment to, what are 5 things that you see? What are 4 things that you hear? What are 3 things that I can't remember what they are specifically,
Yeah.
but maybe it's 4 things that you can, 5 things you can, I don't know, 4 you can touch, 3 you can smell, and really taking time to come to your senses and to blow your own cover, because I'm just amazed at how the psyche operates, mine in particular, and the looping stories that my mind goes through, even though I can see a progression where I think I'm feeling, or I think I'm slowing down. And then as soon as I have that recognition, something happens and a new layer opens within me. And that sense of spaciousness, it's nectar, right?
Mm,
It's life affirming. And you come to the ground of your being, and there's a whole other level of like, oh my God, this
mm,
is amazing. Or even
mm,
when we're having a difficult moment, like, okay, I'm not going to pathologize it. Let me just like know that I'm going through a shift right now, Yeah.
Oh, I love that. What a relief. I love this sense of how you've been speaking of come to our senses. I want to ask you the next question of really talk to me about working with seasoned practitioners, those of us who might have heard things over and over. And what comes to mind right now is the phrase, desire is the root of all evil. But I love how last year you unpacked this in the 4th chapter, is that desire is actually what turns creation, and it's actually what brings things forth. And it's more than a reframe. It's a whole, I don't know, I don't have the words exactly, but these things that many seasoned practitioners have heard over and over and over again, there's a way that we can get kind of stuck in a way of being and doing and thinking and seeing, and all the senses are solidified. But when we wake up to our senses, there's a whole other world that's available. And so talk to me about, like for you as a mom and a very seasoned practitioner, like you're still continuing to learn and be different and have different approaches to things. And I find that very inspiring.
Thank you. I have to tell myself sometimes I'm a seasoned practitioner, because I'm like, oh my God, like I'm not slowing down, or I think I got it, but I really? And that part of ourselves that keeps us, that self-effacement, which is
Mm,
such an important thing. But rather than it being an inner saboteur, it's actually a way of like, it's like the invisible hand that is guiding you. And as my teachers, now, I have some Rolfing teachers, and they're amazing. Within the scope of what they're offering with the structural integration, but as far as like being able to hold this bigger picture from the tantric yogic perspective, maybe it's just one kind of like aspect of the bigger pie.
mm,
But it's like my teachers have gone from their bodies, so it's like in some ways that voice within me called them to me, and then they're present through that inner voice. And I've always been somebody who was learning. I mean, that's just kind of the way that I came into the world. So that's been very much a part of just my innate nature. And um I wonder, I mean, for me, I'm like kind of befuddled and intrigued by people who don't have that fire inside of them and just teach things by rote, or uh but listen, there's a spirit behind it.
Hmm.
You can say the same thing, but is it the same thing? You know? And you can tell, it's like we've been talking about the senses a lot in the Vibhuti Pada. We can smell if
Hmm.
something has juice behind it. So for seasoned practitioners, like the way, from a teaching perspective, my juice comes through. And so it might be just a little teeny insight that I'm somehow managing to put into words, but then that transmission and holding the space for them to like feel it in themselves, or that there's a shift in me that's osmotically being transferred to them,
Mm.
to be able to tap into that inquiry,
Hmm.
to really go into that space. So, you know, what is a seasoned practitioner? What does that even mean? And like that's where my looping mind, and where I have to go, like, because again, it's like, oh, well, I'm not doing as much as I had. I could be doing more. I think that's a healthy way of checking in with ourselves. Like, have I become stunted? Am I overdoing something else? Again, it's that personal confrontation, um, to hold that as a place of vitality, and oh my God, you know what I did today in my practice? Okay, I mean, I've literally been doing Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing, since I was 19 years old. I'm 57. Today, I did it with my left hand. I know you're probably laughing. Other people think I'm ridiculous. And I was like, what the hell? Why not? Like, what is the holding pattern where I do it with my right hand? And then I could barely do it. And I was like, this is amazing, because now I know what it's like to be a beginner, and getting that, like, that subtle articulation with my fingers. And it was like comical, because I was so clumsy, and so like I had such a struggle adapting, but I felt a difference in the way that my lungs were moving and my body. So I was like, this is amazing to do that. So being willing to take some risks within yourself. And, we know that from the folklore, like from the Patanjali mantra, there's risk involved. So are you willing to risk? And when you said, I wasn't indoctrinated with, what is it? Desire is the source of all evil. But I love that book that you bought, for me, Terry Tempest
Williams.
Williams, When Women Were Birds. And she speaks about, um, that betrayal of eating the apple, right? Like this apple of desire, and then being expelled from the garden. And would you rather live in a well-tended garden, or go out into the wilds, go out and explore? And she said, everybody has to learn how to betray some archetype or some system, because otherwise we're betraying ourselves. And we have been seeded with something. So being able to explore those things, yoga has always been about synergy and about, it's like when things get too narrow or they get too rote, is it even yoga anymore? Is consciousness being stretched? So there's a stretching there that can occur. I mean, as I'm looking at you and feeling, it wasn't that long ago you were pregnant.
No,
Think
I
about
know.
that. Like, and as long as you're nursing, your body still it kind of is pregnant. Think about like how you stretched.
It
My
was
husband and I were
wild.
watching Outlander last night, and the daughter gives birth, and then like 3 days later she's wearing this tight little belt. I'm like, give me a freaking break. I was like, I had birth, and then I had to still had the big belly, but it was just
Yeah,
floppy.
yeah.
But when you were like in that pregnancy process, it was such a gradual kind of expansion. I mean, there is a certain point when you're going to pop, when you feel like you're
Yeah.
going to pop, but like it's a gradual, comfortable kind of attention,
Yeah.
tension that is, that we want to feel like, oh, wow, there's something gestating here. There's something percolating. And in that process, there's also this dissolution that's happening. We've spoken about this before, where like with the what's it called? The cocoon, the
Mm.
I'm saying thinking catalyst, but
The caterpillar.
yeah, no, it's a caterpillar, but there's also another word for
Oh, the chrysalis.
thank you.
Yeah.
The chrysalis, that literally there's a phase when um that caterpillar, it's literally goo. Like if you held it up to light, it's literally all goo inside. So there's going to be, that ego dissolution is really, really important. And then the reformation of the ego. So that's like the delicious part, isn't it? And we, of course, don't want to completely dissolve the ego because then we would be actually psychotic. But
Mm.
being able to go in there intentionally and just kind of like, um, you know, like you can have a very potent practice in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes. It might be 2 hours. One of the markers that Patanjali says is that you lose track of time.
Mm.
So it's this quality space. So circling back to this sense of seasoned practitioner, are you? Like what does that mean? What does that really mean? I mean, you and I know in the tradition, that's 20 years
Mhm. Minimum.
minimum. And that means a practitioner, not a membership to a class or a club. This is like a personal practice. And you and I know it includes, there's no coincidence that Patanjali was a transpersonal psychologist. He was also I was going to say a linguist, but I mean, I guess he was a grammarian. He was a linguist. He studied language. He studied, you know, like, what does this mean? And what does this imply? And an Ayurvedic physician. So it means that you're really working on many levels within yourself. You're learning about yourself. You're learning to meet yourself. You are not, um, like recoiling away from that self effacement. And you've pulled in appropriate guides and mentors who are going to hold your feet to the fire and also have their hand at your back. So I
Hmm.
think that, it's really important to investigate what this idea is of a seasoned practitioner. So for me, I'm still questioning that. And then I have to go, yeah, you are. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's evidence.
Yeah.
There's decades of evidence. There's You know, my teachers have told me that, and these are
Yeah.
teachers that I've worked with for 15 years, 20 years, longer. And what I would say is like a seasoned practitioner holds their teacher close,
Hmm.
um, not to hold their hand, but like, what a gift,
Yeah.
because they die, you know,
Yeah.
and even just like having the conversation, I can't tell you like how many times I'm just like, oh my God, you know, what a gift it was. And wouldn't it just be so amazing to be able to, you know, towards, I didn't get to always be in their vicinity, but I could pick up the phone and give
Yeah.
them a call, or now you can send a text and just,
Yeah.
you know, keep that alliance open.
Yeah.
It's so rare and it's so powerful. So even finding a seasoned teacher who's willing to show up for you in that way, on a really personal level,
Mm.
on an intimate one-to-one level, is is such a gift. That was a really roundabout answer, but I am, you know, fresh off the mat, having done the big no-no of naughty shouldna with my left hand, the butt wiping
Woo!
hand.
Ah!
I was like,
Man,
"Oh
that's a
my
tantric.
God." I know, right? Is Durga gonna rise from the flames and grant me a boon, or
Yeah. Yeah. Probably. What, oh my gosh, so many things are sparking right now. And, you ask, like, well, what is a seasoned practitioner? And the word seasoned comes to mind, which brings up the word salt. And so for me, I think of salt comes from the sea, but also the earth. But when you salt something, it preserves it. But salt is also, one of those elements that's a little bit gritty. It's not sugar, it's salt. And people, there's that phrase, worth your salt. I don't really know what that means, but that comes to mind.
I'm spacing out again. I just rolled off the yoga mat, so my mind is the mush inside of the chrysalis. Um, but oh my gosh, why can't I think of his name? It'll uh amazing writer. He was persecuted. He's like a Nobel Prize winner from India. It'll come to me, but in one of his books, he says any story worth its salt is worth dissolving.
Wow. Yeah.
Isn't that great? I'm gonna have to look up his name quick because
Yeah.
um yeah, it'll come to me. It'll come to me. Yeah. But it's true.
And
Any story worth its salt is worth dissolving.
yeah. Yeah. But it is. It's not that desire to hold on to a form, to kind of be the way it is. And I think of that sometimes with people that either have come to my classes a lot or that I've been in class with, is that um, there's a way of doing things that is either not updating with how our bodies are now, which is like 10 years in, 20 years in, like they're really different, um, and still trying to kind of do it a certain way, and or not getting feedback like you're saying from our teachers. And then it brings to mind for me like building real community. So I feel, at least in my ethos, people are really, really hungry for in-person interactions. I mean, I can't tell you how many people are like, oh, I don't do internet, I'm not doing that anymore. We're sick of it. And I feel like we're kind of building our legs again, is like how to do this. And at least in my part of the world, it's a lot. It's like herding cats to try and get the yoga teachers to like even talk to each other. Like, what's going on? But the necessity for real community, to see and be seen.
Right. Right. And you're kind of stepping back into the teaching again after your um mother leave,
Yeah.
maternity leave. So are you experiencing that as you're stepping back in?
Yeah, it's really I find like it was easy in a way because I definitely have students that are just ready and their schedule allows, for a Wednesday morning class to just be there. And I'm internally grateful for that. I really, really appreciate that because it's enlivening for me and they feel that, and we really juice each other. And I always feel like there could be more. I feel like there could be a bigger conversation between all of the yoga teachers in the area, a way to build community. And it's, yeah, so it's, I'm always a little bit perplexed on how to do that. I'm personally limited for time right now.
Right.
I have a 1 year old, so but it's very, and it's always interesting to me, really asking people to go through this process of yoga, which is an individuation process and a personal process in a group setting. It's a little paradoxical, but for some reason it works. I've known that for myself. That's why I stopped teaching private lessons because it wasn't as effective. Uh, I really found that the group carried the individual, and I don't know why it works, but it works.
Mm, that's so interesting. Yeah. And I think, there is a point where it is appropriate for private, for helping somebody specifically, but it's a lot,
Yeah,
I mean, it's lucrative, but it's a lot energetically. And I agree, there is something that happens. What I've also noticed is people don't really want a private.
yeah,
Once you actually dish it out, it's a lot
yeah,
to take in, I mean, there's certain people who can really benefit, and then it's like, okay, now do they have a practice, right?
right.
A lot of times they just maybe want you to hold their hands.
Yeah,
um it's kind of like a thing of privilege, so
yeah.
being able to discern that. But
Mm,
something that um is a possibility is to have like a, I don't know, like maybe monthly seems like a lot, honestly, but where there's a community for the yoga teachers and they all come and maybe share something. They share
hmm
15 or 20 minutes or a class, and there's that kind of a community thing. Or one of the great things is what is it called? It's yoga off the mat or something, or I can't
Mm,
remember now, but it's a there's a group in Mysuru, they call it Mysuru now, or Mysore, where they do, like, this sounds horrendous to me now, but I used to do it 108 sun salutations. I mean, you can play on it, you
yeah,
could move your vertebra, however many times, segmentation, and add that up.
yeah.
It really takes time. They were actually took pledges, and it went towards helping, the sex workers, or um God, my brain, I should not practice this close to these things, but where there's sex trafficking.
Yeah,
That's what it is, sex
yeah,
trafficking. So there's opportunities like that where there's a shared value or a shared purpose, and let's come together and let's do this. And people might have um different agendas, but I think, different kind of like streams,
yeah.
but creating that space for connection. Or one of the things that I love doing so much was bringing my teacher, you
Yeah.
know and encouraging people to come out of the woodwork and to experience her. That here was, somebody who really um was a luminary and an elder in the field, like Rama, and holding that, or maybe you even have like a movie night and you play that movie. Like Yoga Revealed was such a good movie. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it in a while, but I think, it still really holds its salt, and
Yeah.
has a lot of like food for thought. But places, or even it's a forum, where it's like, now, like, get finding a place, renting a place, making time for it. Now we can do it on Zoom. We can have community talks. And the key is to just like create a forum where there's a space and there's regular opportunities for people to interact beyond transactional exchanges. Um, and that we, you know, we lead with invitation instead of trying to like be in that place of control. So last session we talked about like the healthy the farming community that's here on Kauai, right? And it's like the renting of the neighborhood center. I think it's like every couple of months, and people come and somebody, one person offers to share maybe their experience with beekeeping, or maybe in our case, it would be like postpartum or perimenopause, or, whatever it is. And then there's a lot of time for just organic mingling and talking, but like creating a schedule that's spacious enough where there's consistency. That is so important on Kauai. I mean, I can't tell you how many times somebody wanted to teach, and I'm like, just know that like you have to be consistent for like a year and a half for people to get their asana to klasana, and
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
and that you're showing up, and that consistency, because they're like, oh, nobody showed up, after a month or 3 months. And it's like, um the consistency aspect. So keeping it spacious enough where there is like, maybe you're doing solstices,
Yeah.
maybe it's full moons, maybe, and opening, like having diversity within that. So maybe it's not just yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like one of my favorite experiences was bringing in one of my dear friends, Ramaya, and there was an interest. I was like, I'm an aficionado, and I've been exploring astrology since I was 19 as well. Not like uh as studiously as I could be, but it's always been something that I'm interested in. And, it's a vast field, it's endless. But, I brought her in, and we created an astrology class, and it was so perfect because everybody was so open and they wanted to see kind of like a more cosmological, like, what are these stages that I'm going through, and what are these tensions, and like, how can I work with it, and who am I on this, like with this astrological point of view. So, having enough diversity within that, maybe somebody who likes to share about Ayurveda, making it interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and then also even having, like some kind of ritual or
Mm-hmm.
something could be
Mm-hmm.
there, where there's a sense of, you're building, and the ritual could be that like maybe it is just solstices
Mm-hmm.
and equinoxes, right? And
Yeah.
maybe it's bringing in the storytelling and like making it like something that you want to do, and inviting other people to participate, so that everybody gets to show up and share their gifts, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and discover gifts, and then how do I give these gifts? So I think it's really important too that, we're not just like um too closed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Uh it 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 could be it could be anything, right?
Yeah.
And probably a lot of these people who are sharing yoga aren't just sharing yoga.
Yeah.
They're gardeners, or they're poets, or they're, do herbology or astrology or body work or something like that, and just being able to share and yeah, expand our world a little bit.
That's perfect. Thank you. That's very useful. I hope that's useful for others as well. And I want to ask you about the, I feel like it's like the age-old question, but maybe it's not. Maybe other people have a handle on this. But I want you to talk to me about being able to leverage one's yoga practice so that the things that we're learning in class actually take root in daily life in such a way that I can call on the tools when the going gets tough in the heat of the moment.
I am going to turn that upside down and inside out and on its head. It's
Great.
life that authenticates your practice. So if you're not just, if the practice is blowing your own cover and peeling that back and dissolving into the goo and not knowing what's going to emerge, but knowing that something like what can't be dissolved is going to be there in a more kind of like clarified way or appreciated way, it's going to show up in your life. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And that's part of that seasoning process. I mean, certainly it's all there, you know, it's all there in those sutras. And that second sutra, it's like, do you have enough self-awareness to notice when you're up regulating or what the tonus is of your body or of your system, right? And then life, once you kind of start understanding that, and I mean, one of the most amazing things was even with, you know, my teacher Patabi Joyce, who really like um it was a very physical practice, but he did weave in these things. And it was like before, you know, and it was also like poses were given to you when he thought you were ready.
Mm.
And sometimes you weren't ready, but he knew you were ready to be like cracked a little bit further. And he would just notice the tone of your nervous system, or even like before the backbending series. And he would mirror that to you. And he'd be like, relax,
Mm.
trust, or pray God, you know? And so there was just that like moment of reflection. And certainly, you know, we were talking about this yesterday too. And, you know, think back to, um, you know, when we were going through the teacher training, and it's like learning to see a student and being able to see like, are they overheating? Are they red in the face? Are they, do they look like the color has drained from them? Do their eyes look checked out? Where are they breathing from? What's the tonus of that person? And being able to help them to like, because if you're in that state, yoga is going to magnify it. So it's like being able to have that awareness of your own body through interoception, how it feels in your own body, having your own, having awareness of where you are and the ground underneath you is going to give you kind of like a litmus test to look at that stuff. So, I mean, if it was just practice, everything would be so easy, right? Because in some way, you know, in a lot of ways, like, and again, the distinction between a practice and going to class, can't emphasize that enough. And you do need to go to class, right? You do need to go to class, and probably more when you're, not probably, definitely more when you're beginning. So a seasoned practitioner, okay, let's circle back to that, is somebody who has a practice.
Yeah.
Right? Who's
Yeah.
like constant, and it's so much more than the mat, you know, it's like they're actually in that autodidactic learning through the self, from the self, for the self, where it's like, okay, no, I'm going to look this up a little further. No, I'm going to cross reference this a little further. I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to metabolize it. I'm going to be okay with the fact that I don't understand. Right. So, having that kind of if we were just in that place, like literally I could be in this room for an eternity, and just do my thing. It's life that's growing me. It's life that's diversifying me. Like Nico is at this threshold at 12 years old, and it's waking me up. Like I'm going, whoa, okay, wait a minute. This is not just um I think like astrologically, we have a lot more big changes that happen younger in our life. That first Saturn return, the first Jupiter return, then the Saturn return, and then later it's like the Uranus opposition around 40, 41. And then you have your second Saturn return, and then there really isn't that much until your Uranus return around 82. And most people, they're out. They either like completely melt and then don't reconfigure, or there's like this whole kind of like rebirth. We see a lot of 80-year-olds who are doing really great, and they're really enjoying life. So as we get older, there's kind of less maybe of these thresholds. um and life is gonna, seeing like the concatinations, my daily rhythm, and the rhythm of my year, and then my son's rhythm and my husband's rhythm, and how these are intersecting. And there's just these little moments, the starkness of it and the preciousness of it, I think is kind of what wakes us up, right? And definitely going back to the timing thing, how my sense of timing doesn't always match up with other people's timing, and how that can be frustrating. Or I may be even frustrated with my own sense of timing. So, yeah. Is there more that you want me to flesh out on that question, or?
Well, if you could say, there was a phrase, you've said it before, I'm trying to recall, um, but I think it's something like life will authenticate. And I appreciate the turning it on its head, because I so often, I mean, I struggle with um, forgetting what I know to be true, in a moment of conflict or a moment of fear, when all the things that I know how to do, like even breathe, just like completely evade me, and I'm caught in this state of anxiety and, like you were saying, upregulation. And it's only usually after the fact that I'm like, dang it, I totally could have done something different, and I didn't in the moment. Um, and I do notice, however, that the moment of forgetting and then the moment of recollection are getting closer together. So I'm hoping that maybe someday in the moment I'll be able to say, wait a minute, this is happening. Um, and then be able to do different and be different for hopefully a different outcome.
And I think that comes with time, which is being able to, again, not pathologize.
Yeah.
It's a really important thing.
Yeah.
But you also have to really have done some deep inner work
Yeah.
to be able to go to like confront your neuroses.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're actually going to be pushed to the limit. And maybe, yeah, in hindsight, you realize, oh, I could have done that better. And, maybe you go back to your partner and you say, look, I didn't really deliver that very skillfully.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. and I'm feeling this and I'm feeling this urgency, but this is what my intention was behind it. So I think, that like in a healthy relationship, I mean, that sounds like a day in a marriage, you know what I mean? Or a
Yeah.
week in a marriage that's happening constantly. So if the truth is that consciousness is limitless and we're constantly unfolding it, it's a natural part of the process. And where we get stuck is in the shame around it
Mm,
and the blame around it.
mm,
That's where we become paralyzed. So it's like, okay, you know, I'm human, I'm learning, and I'd like to do it differently, or I wish I had done it with more grace. But I remember talking to Rama about this too, and I was like, oh my God, I just feel like I should send a letter to all of my early students, where I was cranking on them and, telling them that they should be able to do this pose, and, they didn't have the hips for it or the knees for it. And I didn't understand. And she was like, oh, Bhavani, you don't need to do that.
mm.
And so now let's go back to the Kaivalya Pada. It's Sutra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Karma Krishna Shuklam Yogina Strivitam. For the yogi, karma is neither black nor white. So this is where you start to see like, okay, this is, some people are pulling things out of you and you're pulling things out of them. And that sutra really speaks to me about not seeing things in this binary state. It's like all the time, your bandwidth is expanding. And you've heard me say this before, right and wrong don't go far enough. So, like, how can we be that Kali that has the passion and the compassion for ourselves and life? That it's biology, it's the ecology of life is that things will be forced to their maximum potential, and then there will be some kind of a dissolution or some kind of a breakdown, and then there's a diversification of the system. So it's happening a lot all the time, and I 100% believe that everybody needs some kind of psychotherapy at some point in their life, because it's so abstract, that the somatics are really important, but it's kind of like dividing the sutra away from the practice. Once you do that, it loses its juice, it loses its um context. And so in the same way, it's like we need to have that kind of, we need to have more than one stream to make sure um, that we're not self-flagellating
Mm.
in the process. It's like those of us who are drawn to this, we're so sincere and probably have a deep sense of our pain.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have, that going back to that mentor again, somebody who's really been in touch with their pain, who can see you, who can see like, yeah, this is a natural phase that you're going through. I mean, this is my advice to every father who's supporting, the their partner through going through labor and having the baby. I pull them aside. I'm like, it's going to be a shit show. Like, you just need to know that. And like, don't take it personally, suck it up and show up for this person, because
Yeah.
they are going to be, it's just so intense. This person has gone through a death. And that's what I tell them. I'm like, you have no idea.
Yeah.
You just need to be steady for that person and go like freak out or do whatever. But like, this is not the time, like there's going to be a lot of unraveling happening. So can we, it is personal going back to that, but also not taking it personal. And I was so moved in this last pada. God, it's such a great pada.
It is.
Um, that I got to look up which sutra it is, but we were talking about this whole process of evolution and transformation. And that this is, I think it was Satchidananda who said, it's like, this is why you have a mentor. Because when you're in that process and you're going through it, the mentor can be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but it's a phase. So don't pathologize it. Don't get neurotic about it. Like, it's not what's wrong about you. It's what's right about you. And then you're going to actually move through this phase and there'll be another phase, right? So we need each other in that way. And I tell you, when Rama said that to me, she's trustworthy. Like, I know she knew what she was talking about. It wasn't just lip service. It wasn't just meme deep. This was somebody who's really been in the trenches, who's been deep in it. And there's like that inner knowing, like we know. And I was like, and this happened another time. I remember with a friend, and I was really struggling with my mother. And I said to her, I'm just so worried that she's going to die and I'm going to be stuck with all of this guilt. And she would, and she was like, you don't need to do that. And I was like, I don't. She was like, no, you don't need to do that. And I totally trusted her. She's 20 years older than me. Like, she fucking knows, So like, that's great. That's somebody I can trust. And like, I could go through a lot, and I did go through a lot of therapy, but I could lean into that person and just be like, oh my God, one less thing to worry about.
Yeah.
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 So that this is such a beautiful, you created a beautiful tali plate of questions. It's like there's the pickle and the rasam and the sambar and the bhat and the takari and the dals and, these questions about community and being seasoned and leaning into each other. And how do I bring my practice into my life? And, what is a practice, right? Is it a practice or are you a member of a community, which is a great thing? These are bravo, Shinay. Everybody, let's give it up for Shinay.
Well,
So
I'm
good.
just really, I really do try to lean into the field through our online community and the Yoga Sutra mentorship in my own classes that I teach and the classes that I take with you. So when we met in Durango in earlier this year, and I feel like a whole different person since then. But I try to lean into the field and sense what is being asked, if not explicit questions from students that maybe you don't have time to answer or whatever. But I'm deeply grateful that we get to be in this conversation. It's so useful, and maybe next time I can formulate a question about what is practice.
There we go. And I have a question for us.
Yeah.
Who's milking who?
Oh. Oh. Well, I
All I
consider
know is there's a
myself.
lot of cream here.
I was going to say the best part of the tali plate for me is the ghee on top.
Oh, I like I like the always the chutney.
Oh, yeah.
And I like the curd.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
The
the
pickle,
curd is so good.
lime pickle, man, or amla
Oh, lemon
pickle.
lime pickle,
Oh,
green mango pickle. In fact, when
oh,
I was last studying in Austin, Texas. I found this fantastic Indian grocer and I sent like 2 huge boxes. There was an aisle, like your biggest grocery store aisle. It was all like And these aren't like American pickles, for those of you who don't know. They're like salty and savory and spicy. And it was all pickles. And I sent like 2 huge boxes full.
Amazing.
Yes, yes. Well,
Thank
what
you
a
so much.
delicious, delicious time with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Until next time.
Ahui ho.